Welcome to the Prophecy Club. This is going to be an unusual program today, and I think it's going to be very important. And I'm going to tell you right up front that in my 30 years of doing this, there's only been probably 5 times where God spoke to me in the night and told me what to put in a program. This is one of them. And I believe that He's having me bring this to you because it's close and it's very deceptive. This is part of the big plan to get people to take the mark of the beast. So the title is Advanced Technology Leading to the Mark of the Beast. First of all, as I said, it came to the night, and I'm going to make my point up front, lest it be missed in some of the important things I'm about to reveal to you. And that is over 6,000 inventions and patents discovered by humans have actually been destroyed, confiscated, murdered, or shut down. In other words, humans, through God, God is, all wisdom and might are His, and He has given humans a lot of advanced technology. Now, what I'm about to say I can't prove that we've been given anti-gravity or free energy or those sort of things, but that is my belief based upon rumors I've heard, and you probably also heard those. So aliens or the fallen ones, I believe, will present them as much more a part of the plan to win over humans to the deception. In other words, they're going to say, we're friendly and we are here to help you. And then they're going to start bringing out the lie and deception. And that lie, that plan is to introduce the Antichrist and his mark of the beast, and which is a servitude or of alliance. In other words, when they land, and I believe that's what's going to happen. I believe they'll come down all over the planet. They'll just pop the hatch and say, here we are, and we're to help mankind. One of the scenarios was that it would happen when there was great turmoil in the earth. And that may be, and that may fit in when the Russians attack America. I don't know. But they'll say, here we are, we're friendly, and we're here to help you. And then they'll start giving all kinds of high technology, and that's some of the things I'm going to be talking about today. Now, let's first talk about the deception. One of my favorite quotes is, the greatest barrier to the truth is the belief that you already have it. When you're being deceived, you don't know you're being deceived until you're out of the deception. It is easier to deceive a person than to convince them they've been deceived. There are 2 ways to be fooled. I really like this one. One is to believe what isn't true. The other is to refuse to believe what is true. Now think about that. That's really important when we're going to be talking about some of the things we're about to talk about. So let me start with me as a child. When I was probably 13 or 14 years old, my mom said she was going a couple of houses down to visit one of the neighbors. I said, well, I'll go with you. Well, she went inside. I didn't. I just sat out front. And this old man next door saw me, walked over and says, son, come here, I want to show you something. Now, of course, today we would not go into the house of a stranger, but I went into the house. And as we're walking in, he's mumbling. He says, now, I won't see this in my lifetime, but you'll see it. So I walked in and sat down, and he had a kind of a hobby room. And he had used an erector set, if you remember those, an erector set to build this contraption. Today, we call it an axial motor. It had 5 magnets, and then it had 5 electromagnets like this side by side. And he said, and there was a wire. He says, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach this wire here in just a minute over to one side of this battery. And he had one of those old square 6-volt batteries. And then he had a voltmeter. He said, now when I attach this wire, you're going to see that voltmeter jump over to 6 volts. He said, then I'm going to start spinning this. And it'll start spinning faster and faster and faster until finally it'll reach its fastest speed. And as it starts spinning faster, you're going to see those volts go down, 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 till finally they'll reach 0. Then I'll remove the alligator clip from the battery, and this will continue to spin. Again, I'm 13, 14 years old, didn't mean a whole lot to me. So I watched, He had, again, 2 permanent batteries, or 5 permanent batteries, and then 5 electromagnetic batteries. And he gave this one a spin like this. He attached the alligator clip. It jumped to 6 volts. He gave it a spin. It went clickety, clickety, clickety. And it wound up at a speed that sounded kind of like that. Then he reached over and took the alligator clip off, and sure enough, it continued to spin. About that time, I heard in the other end of the house his wife holler, "I want a Bago." He ignored it and kept explaining. He said, now, what this is going to do is this is going to replace electricity. He said, it won't happen in my lifetime. He said, but in your life, there will come a time when you have a box that sits over in the corner of the home and you never buy electricity again. About that time, his wife hollers again, "I want a Bago." He didn't pay attention to her. I don't know what she was saying. So he began to explain. He says, well, Gulf Oil has come to me and offered me $1 million for this patent, and she wants me to take it. She wants me to buy her a Winnebago so we can just travel the United States for the last few years of her life. He was an old man. His eyes, his fingers were like pencils. I mean, they couldn't bend, okay? They were just straight like this. To pick up a pencil, it took both hands. So how he built this thing with hands that are like this, I don't know. But anyway, so he unhooked it, and he said, so Gulf Oil has offered me $1 million for this patent, and I don't know if I'm going to take it or not. About that time, she hollered again, "I want a Bago." He said, but Gulf Oil says, they have the money to take this up to where they can bring it to the market. And they're going to put like stronger magnets. They're going to make the magnets out of plastic. They'll be much more durable and much lighter. And with the proper adjustments, this thing can turn into a machine that you'll never buy electricity again. Well, I left. I did notice about 2 weeks later, there was a really nice brown Winnebago sitting in front of his house. So my guess is that he probably took the $1 million, bought a Winnebago, and traveled the United States for the rest of his life. Now, I sometimes wondered if he had said, no, I'm going to get the financing, I'm going to bring it to market, maybe he might have had a heart attack. He might not have lived. In other words, that's what we'll call them, the deep state. Now, we know that's not really their name. We've talked about it many times. But that's what the deep state wants. These are these evil people that worship Lucifer by name, and their goal is to put the Antichrist, their man, on the throne, and they will stop at nothing. I believe that old man it could be today if there had been Christians involved that had money, and if the world really wasn't run by these evil people that hide behind the curtain and work underneath the table and behind the back, it probably could be today that we have a box set in the corner of our house and never buy electricity again. Now, the bigger question is, why would they not want that technology to come out? Why would they not want everyone to have free electricity? Well, because then they're not hooked into the system and they aren't controlled. See, because one of the controls they want to have is so that if you want to buy or sell, you have to have the mark. Well, some of the other controls on down from there, you remember Henry Kissinger was quoted as saying, he who controls food can control the people. He who controls energy can control entire continents. But he who controls money can control the world. That's what they want to do. He who controls electricity can control the people to a large degree, you see. He who controls food to a larger degree, energy a larger degree. And if everybody had a little box sitting in their home, no one had to buy electricity anymore, they can't control them. All right, now let's go on to the next story. So it was probably, Prophecy Club started in 1993. This was probably 1997 or 1998. In those days, there was no internet. And we were, at that time, I didn't know it at the time, but we were the number 2 prophecy ministry in America. At the time, we were on 25 TV stations and 80 radio stations. Our airtime was about $300,000 a month, which was, I think we were second only to Jack Van Impe in those days. So if you wanted to get a word out, you had to go to Prophecy Club. We were one of the few places that would put it out. So anyway, this guy called me. He says, I want to be on your program. I said, yeah, what you got? He said, well, I grew up in Seattle, I believe was the city. Can't be sure. But he said, I was making air conditioners, heating air units and air conditioner units with my company. And he said, I had a dream. And it showed me that if I would change what I'm doing on the air conditioner just a little bit, that I could come out with the most efficient heat pump on the planet. He said, so I tried it out, built a prototype. Sure enough, it worked. I started selling them. And he said, I mean, people were pulling their HVAC units left and right, and they were buying this new one, this more efficient HVAC unit. It's both heating and air conditioning, everything they need. It was much more efficient. He said, I mean, I had money hanging out of every pocket. He said, it was going great. And then I had another dream. See, again, wisdom and might are his. God has the wisdom, not the devil, okay? So I had another dream. He said, and it showed me if I were to take this like one step further, it would make it even more efficient. He said, so I put that together, made a prototype. He said, sure enough. He said, not only was it more efficient, he said it was so efficient, it pulled more energy out of the atmosphere than it took to run the heat pump. And he said, I figured out a way to then take that electricity where people could then sell it back to the electric company. And he said, I thought I was going to go down in history. I thought I was going to be up there with Thomas Edison, with Alexander Bell. I thought I was going to be in the history books. I thought I was going to be in the books with the high school students reading about how I invented this heat pump that can give a person free heating and air conditioning for the home and extra to sell to the electric company. He said, man, I built me a couple of prototypes. I proved it out. I ran a big double truck ad in the Seattle Times. I think that was the newspaper. I don't remember. It was a lot of years. And he said, I rented me a real big auditorium downtown Seattle. And he said, man, I mean, the place was packed that night. He said, I walked up, time to start. I picked up the microphone. And as soon as I said, welcome, police poured in from all of the doors. He says, I was arrested publicly, humiliated in front of all of those people. I was arrested. The next day, my name in the newspaper was Mud. I was a con man. I was a scammer. I was a con artist, and all of this is just a big lie. I was a deceiver. I was going to cheat the people. And he said, you know that little law where they can't hold you more than 48 hours lest they charge you? He said, I was held for 2 years. They never charged me. They never charged me at all. Finally, they came to me and they said, all right, son, let me explain to you. What you were about to do was to put oil companies, electric companies, heating air conditioning companies out of business. You were about to upset the entire economy of the world. He said, we can't have that. So here's what we're willing to do. If you sign these papers, which say that all of this was bunk and bogus, and if you agree to never, ever release this technology, try to build one again, and never have anything to do with this technology ever, ever, ever again, then we're willing to release you. Of course, I signed the papers only to discover my wife had divorced me, my children left me, my house was confiscated, my business was confiscated, all of my money and all of my accounts, my children's savings accounts, everything was gone. Now, why wouldn't they want that out? Why wouldn't they want to have someone have very efficient electricity? Why wouldn't they want, well, because again, it boils down to control. They want control. Now let's go to the next one. So this was probably 1999. I was living in Topeka, Kansas at the time. And I happened to catch over on the secular stations, there was a guy that was explaining how he had invented an underground tunneling machine. And he was going to be speaking at a local hotel over in Kansas City. So I went to the meeting. And as you can imagine, the place was packed. And so I sat there like everybody else, and he showed something that looked like the picture of this bullet. Believe me, I wish I had drawings of it now. But he said, he explained how it works. He said, out the front of it here, it shined a real powerful laser. And he said, whether it was rock or dirt or whatever it was, he says that powerful laser would hit the rock or sand in front of it and just turn it to ash. And then the front part up here, the front part of the machine was powered by atomic power, and it was really, really hot. And it would melt that ash into kind of a concrete tunnel for the walls. It would make walls. And he said it moved through the earth at about 5 miles an hour. And he said, when you got done, you had a perfect tunnel, perfectly round, and with basically concrete walls. And he said it moved 5 miles an hour, and that they had made these underground tunnels all around the world. Well, I just looked before I came on to make this program. I Googled underground tunneling machine. And guess what? They were all these boring machines that have this thing goes round and round. They're slow as Christmas. None of them. This technology here was not there. Now, my guess is that he was telling the truth. Can I prove it? No, I can't. Matter of fact, I can't prove any of this. Matter of fact, that's my disclaimer. I can't prove any of it. But I don't believe he was lying. I think that he invented this, and I think it's out there. It's just that they don't want it. That's my point today. Evil people, the deep state, as we've decided to call them, does not want this kind of technology out there because they want to bring it out. When they land, they want to say, we're friendly, we're here to help, we're going to give you all kinds of technology. Never mind that a lot of the technology actually came to good people here on Earth that was squashed or destroyed. Let me give you another example. About 1.5 years ago, somebody sent me an email. Thank you very much, by the way, for your emails. And it was of a guy. I remember he had a red pickup. I didn't necessarily save the video, but he had a red pickup. And he was there explaining how, all right now this red pickup's running on gasoline. But just a minute, I'm going to flip a switch, and it's going to be running on hydrogen pulled directly out of water. In other words, I've come up with a way to make the vehicle run on water. And the output is just water vapor. And about 4 days later, there was about 13 people shot and killed in one of those mass killings, and he was one of them. Just an accident. Or maybe somebody shut him up. I'll give you another example. A buddy of mine up in Kansas, chiropractor up there, I went to see him, not in Topeka, by the way. I went to see him. We became really good friends. And he began opening up and telling me. And he said, I used to have a real powerful microscope. And he said, I discovered something about blood. I can't remember exactly how he explained it to me. But basically, he discovered something in the blood that he was able to fix. And he was just about ready to come up with this amazing discovery that could basically pretty much heal all diseases. And he said, and then one evening, a knock came on my front door. These 4 guys pushed their way in, and they went directly to my microscope, and they drilled it. In other words, they drilled right down through the lens, destroying the microscope. Now, how'd they know? How did they know that he had this technology? Well, again, I believe they have a time machine. And I believe that they can not only go forward and backward, but if they want to, they can see forward and backward. And they saw that this guy was going to come forth with some amazing technology that is going to basically heal all diseases. So they shut him down. Now, again, my point is the point is here is there's evil people in high places that is suppressing technology, and when the aliens land, that's part of the deception. They're going to say, we're here to help you, and they're going to pull out all technology. And a lot of times, the technology didn't come from them. it came from humans, but it got suppressed. I can tell you many things that I know of that are not on the internet. Uh, okay. I probably shouldn't say. I'll kind of talk in smoke and mirrors here for just a second. So you remember I told you that God said He would give me the money to drill the well in Israel. Now, every time I say that, I got to give you a disclaimer. Cannot guarantee where we get the money drilled for or hit oil in Israel. But shortly after He told me that, I ran across this thing. And in this thing, they required me to sign a non-disclosure agreement. And I gave them permission to not only listen to my broadcasts, but to monitor cell phone calls, all phone calls, emails, everything. And there's things I can't talk about, and that's one of them I can't talk about. I'm not going to talk about it because I'm not going to blow the chances. But I sent an email one time to someone, and it had this guy's, just his first name. And I was talking about him to another person in the group, which I thought, okay, if he's in the group, I'm going to talk. 30 minutes later, the guy called, and he said, "You just sent an email to such and such, and it had my name in it." Yes, sir, I did. He said, "Don't do it again." So if you think that they can't monitor and track, if you think that they aren't already monitoring and tracking everybody, if it goes through the ear, if it goes through some kind of a cable on this planet, it's monitored, okay? Now, let me go to this to tie this together. 2014, remember the date, that's important. Neville Johnson, a prophet in Australia, had an angel come to him about 6:30 in the morning. Angel said, "Write this down." I immediately recognized this angel from being there several times before. He quoted the following scriptures, told me to write it down. He said, "Thus saith the Lord of hosts, yet once, it is a little while, and I will shake the heavens and the earth and the sea and the dry land." Now, we know that every high place falls, every low place fills in. That's when He makes a new heaven and a new earth. "I will shake the nations." Okay, who are the nations? That's the people of the earth, in this case. "And the desire of all nations shall come. And I will fill this house with glory." That's, he's talking about the New Jerusalem there. "Saith the Lord of hosts, the silver is mine, and the gold is mine, saith the Lord of hosts. The glory of the latter house," means eternity, "will be greater than that of the former, saith the Lord of hosts, and in this place will I give peace, saith the Lord of hosts." Now there's also a second meaning. The latter house also is referring to the last days. He's going to do things greater than He's ever done before, and that's part of what we're talking about today. They've held back. Evil people have held back cancer cures and all kinds of things. Let me get to that. Okay, let's go on. Then he had him write down Hebrews 12:26, "Whose voice then shook the earth, but now He has promised, saying, Once more, I shake not the earth only, but also heaven." And of course, that's when the earth turns upside down, scattereth abroad the inhabitants thereof. That's when the sun, moon, and stars dissolve, gone. Okay, try to imagine that. He makes a new heaven and a new earth. "And this word yet once more signifieth the removing of those things that are shaken, and the things that are made, and those things which cannot be shaken may remain," meaning us and a new heaven and a new earth. "Wherefore we, receiving a kingdom which cannot be moved, let us have grace whereby we have served God acceptably with reverence and godly fear. Our God is a consuming fire. And when He returns and He blows," it's called the morning star, when He blows that morning star, that glory, that fire, down on the earth, we've talked about this a lot of times, it goes to the center of the earth, so I'll skip that part. Let's go on. The emphasis was on the passage saying consuming fire. He spoke about the shaking that would also release a baptism of fire upon those in His church who are pursuing the Lord and seeking His purity in their lives. Then a vision opened in front of me where I saw this angel holding what looked like a fragile, large, ornate cup and saucer. This cup was very thin and fragile. Written on the cup were the words, "The nation's economies." I was then able to see inside the cup, and on the inside it was filthy. The angel said, "The economies of the world are like this cup. clean on the outside, but filthy on the inside. In other words, what many people are doing to make their money is hurting people. It's filthy, it's corrupt. I then heard a crack, and the cup began to crack and quickly fell apart into pieces, meaning the dollar, which is the cup, it's the primary source of exchange on the planet. That's what it's saying. The dollar is going to go away, which we've been told by many people. The scene changed. The angel was holding a large man upside down by his leg. He began shaking the man violently, up and down movement. As I watched, all kinds of things began falling out of the man's pocket, such as gold, silver. Now, here's the point I want you to see. Inventions. So the devil has held back all kinds of inventions. He's held back our gold and our silver. We've been robbed. That's straight out of James. We can go to that verse, but I'm not going to get off that track today. Gold, silver, and inventions, which seem to be connection with energy as well as other inventions. There were cures, listen carefully, cures for certain diseases also falling from the man's pocket. Cures such as cancer, diabetes, asthma, Alzheimer's disease, and many other diseases. The cures for these diseases already exist, but have been hidden by pharmaceutical companies. Oh, surely not. Why, they want the best for us, right? See, the pharmaceutical companies don't come out with cures. They only come out with remedies, something to kind of help you get along. But what this is saying, they have a cure for cancer. They have a cure for diabetes and asthma and Alzheimer's and many other diseases. So many people are dying from them, and they won't release the cure. That kind of fits with the other scriptures, doesn't it? This giant represented the world and the financial systems of the world. As I watched this unfold, this angel began shouting the words, shake, exposure, transfer. So there's about to be a shaking, a financial shaking, a literal world shaking. Then there's going to be an exposure. You remember, I heard massive arrests, and several other prophecies have seen where they rolled tanks into the White House, the Capitol, and the Supreme Court, and they bring all the police and all the guards out, and then they arrest a lot of the people inside and march them down the street like prisoners after a big victory of World War II. That's the exposure. And then there's transfer. Well, what is it talking about transfer? Remember the scripture? I think I've got it here. Yeah. A good man leaveth an inheritance to his children's children, and the wealth of the sinner is laid up for the just. Now, I want you to see that last part there. The wealth of the sinner is laid up for the just. I think that that's part of how God is about to give me the money to drill the well in Israel. I don't exactly know how it's going to happen. I certainly don't know when, but I do think it's close. Now, he said this, I felt the earth under me shake like a tremor. At this point, I heard the Lord speak, one more time, I will shake the heavens and the earth. There is no more time. It will start to unfold now. That was 2014. It will start first in the church, then in the nations. At this point, I began to see certain things happening in the world. There will be exposures in the church. Hidden things will come to light as a purifying work in the church gets underway. This will shock many people, but it is the work of God. I saw Japan being shaken by volcanoes and earthquakes in a way that repercussions around the world. I saw upheavals in Thailand. I saw China taking a much firmer grip on Hong Kong. That's real close. There will be clashes in the South China Sea. Australia will be impacted, but will stand the shaking for now. New Zealand, hidden things will come to light, and ethnic unrest will increase. Now, my point is, over 6,000 inventions and patents have been discovered by humans, but they've been destroyed, confiscated, murdered, shut down by evil people in high places. Aliens or fallen ones are going to come and say, we're here to help. And the whole point is to point you to the Antichrist, the mark of the beast, which we are not going to do. Let me talk about our three sponsors briefly. First, if you want to get gold or silver, we're going to send you to 800-200-GOLD or prophecyclubgold.com, prophecyclubgold.com. Second, if you want to get long-term emergency food, the only place I would send you to is josephskitchen.com. It is what I believe is God's long-term storage food. As you recall, Pharaoh and Joseph, what fed the world for 7 years was wheat. Most of your long-term storage places, $9,000 to $10,000 to feed one person for 1 year. Joseph's Kitchen can show you how to do it for about $1,000, one person, 1 year. And EMP Shield. If you want your car to start, if you want your computers to start after some kind of nuclear event, that's the device to get. And if you go to empshield.com and use the promo code PROPHECY, get your $50 discount and help your Prophecy Club.